Special thanks to Horizon Therapeutics for sponsoring today's Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Working tirelessly to research, develop, and bring forward medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Discover more about Horizon Therapeutics' mission at horizontherapeutics.com.
The main thing is to love the kids. Unconditional love. Because most kids that are on the spectrum, regardless of where they are on the spectrum, they all want to be loved, they all want to be cherished, and they all want to have fun with their friends. You know, as a dad or stepdad, one of the main things is don't think you're alone. You're not alone. You always have people there that will support you, no matter what.
That's our guest this week, Mike Ensminger. Mike is the father of 3, including Aaron, 15, who's autistic. We'll hear about Mike's journey as a stepfather to a special needs child and more on this Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Say hello to David Hirsch.
Hi, and thanks for listening to the Dad to Dad podcast, Fathers Mentoring Fathers of Children with Special Needs, presented by the Special Fathers Network.
The Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. Through our personalized matching process, new fathers with special needs children connect with mentor fathers in a similar situation. It's a great way for dads to support dads. To find out more, go to 21stcenturydads.org.
And if you're a dad looking for help or would like to offer help, we'd be honored to have you join our closed Facebook group. Please go to facebook.com/groups and search Dad to Dad.
And now let's hear this conversation between Mike Ensminger and David Hirsch.
I'm thrilled to be talking today with Mike Ensminger of Conroe, Texas, who's the father of 3 and a seasoned customer service professional, mostly in the paper industry. Mike, thank you for taking the time to do a podcast interview for the Special Fathers Network.
Well, thanks for having me.
You and your wife, Melissa, have been married for 11 years and are the proud parents of 3 children, Alexis, 23, Ashlyn, 16, and Aaron, 15, who has autism. Let's start with some background. Where did you grow up? Tell me something about your family.
I grew up, I was born in Edina, Minnesota. Lived there until I was about 6th grade and then moved to the North Dallas area. I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister. And I actually lived in North Dallas, went to elementary, junior high, high school, all in North Dallas.
Excellent. From what I remember, and I want to focus on the negative, but I remember that, like my parents, your parents were divorced. And I was wondering about what age that was and what the circumstances were.
They divorced I was in 10th grade. But it's kind of the story. They fought a lot, even from when I was little. Many broken windows. My mom had drove her car through the garage.
Oh my God.
So it was very, I'll look back and now it's uncomfortable to be a part of it. But they divorced, and when I was in 10th grade, my dad actually was seeing someone, and that's who he married after they were divorced. It was a difficult situation. My mom was very angry. We lived with my mom, so, you kind of grow up with the thing that don't talk negatively about a parent. Well, she talked negatively about him all the time. So that's all what we got from him. He was a heavy drinker. So most of the time when we did see him past that, he was drunk. It just kind of was. And then my mom got addicted to pain medicine and was a user for up until she died.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. It sounds like a pretty challenging situation. And you and your siblings were relatively young when this all came down as well. So I think it's another testimony to God and the role that he plays in people's lives, your life in particular, and doing some of the amazing things that you've done with those humble beginnings. Out of curiosity, what did your dad do for a living though?
He was in sales, telecommunications. Don't know exactly I just know he did pretty well in sales. And my mom was a LVN nurse.
Okay. So Even though it was sort of a precarious situation, I'm wondering, how would you characterize your relationship with your dad?
To this day, kind of off. I mean, I love him, and a lot of things we went through. I mean, forgiveness is a huge word. It kind of was when I was saved. That was the big hurdle to get past, because you know, you want to hold resentments, or you don't want to hold them, but you just have them with nowhere to put them. And one thing I learned after I was saved, that the biggest step to move forward in my life was to forgive those who did, I wouldn't say did me wrong, but that had adverse effects against me.
Yeah, well, it's huge. I admire you for crossing that bridge, right? It's a heavy burden, when you carry that resentment, when you're not willing to give that forgiveness, and you think you're doing it for the other person, and really, you're doing it for yourself, right? To take the burden off your shoulders, so you can move on and not be weighted down by all that. I can relate. Last question about your dad, though: is there anything that you learned from your dad, directly or indirectly, that impacted you in a positive way as it relates to being a dad yourself?
Oh, I mean, my dad, when I played soccer, and I played soccer since I was a little kid, and a lot of times he was the coach. Um, but he was always, um, he had I kind of look back, and when I wrote my story, I look back at my dad had a horrible childhood. His mom left when he was 11, and he basically was on his own not far after that, 12, 13 years old. Basically being on, his dad was alcoholic, so he was, he basically went and did what he wanted. And I think he moved to Dallas from Arkansas when he was 17, maybe 16. That's one thing I've learned from him is, I mean, his love is unconditional, but there's a lot of times where he failed to show it, and I understand it, because I struggle with the same thing at times. But he always, to as much as he could, especially when I was younger, he was always involved in my sports, whatever I did, always.
So, from what I remember, you went to school at Southwest Texas State University. And where did your career take you from there?
Well, I went to school there, and I actually left school early. I had to drop out and move back home. It was when we did a intervention on my mother. So she went into rehab. Me and my older brother and my older sister did an intervention. If you've ever done one of those, they're horrible. She went into rehab, so I moved back home. I got a job, and we helped keep the house paid for while she was going through rehab. After that, I kind of went to community college for a little bit, but I got into the restaurant business. Struggled here and there with everywhere from, just kind of stayed around the restaurant business for quite a while before my friend had taught me into getting the paper business. And I've kind of been in and out of it since.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. I know that you and Melissa met, but I can't remember, how was it that you met?
We met on a Christian mingle.
Okay.
And it's a Christian base. And we actually talked for probably a couple of years off and on before we ever met. She lived in Houston, and I lived in Frisco, Texas. And yeah, we talked. That's when we first met, and I still remember the first time she finally was like, "Well, I'm coming to see you." So I'm like, "Okay." Well, she showed up with, it was the 3 kids. Aaron was 3, Ashlyn was 4, and Alexis was 11. I still remember we laugh to this day, because when they came in, Aaron and Ashlyn, being 3 and 4 year olds, they just headed straight to the couch and started jumping up and down on the couch and everything like that. And I'm like, yeah, you please don't, and Melissa's like, you're going to have to be a lot more firm with them on that. Yeah, that's when I first met them. It went from there.
That's fabulous. Well, let's talk about special needs first on a personal level and then perhaps beyond. And I'm sort of curious to know, before you met and eventually married Melissa and became a stepfather, did you have any experience with the special needs community?
No, none, zero.
So what is Aaron's diagnosis and how did it come about?
Aaron was diagnosed when he was before I met him. Melissa had said that he was, because a lot of times when, just until he was like 2, all he did was scream. And I think she had him tested at Texas Children's when he was, I don't know, between 18 months and 2 years. And that's where they did the diagnosis on autism. He screamed a lot. He didn't talk much at first, but Melissa was very adamant at keeping him in therapy. And especially after we got married and everything, we got him in a Frisco because they moved up to Dallas, had a very good pre-K school where he could do speech and things like that. And it was inclusive, which was important because, you didn't want to keep him separated because we wanted to try where he was included with other kids. And he did really well. But he's been in therapy since he's been 2.
Okay. If you can remember way back when you first met a family and then learned about the autism diagnosis, what was your first reaction?
I don't think it bothered me that much. I mean, it's because it didn't seem to me that he was that much different. I mean, he was in a different way, but I think I was more inspired to learn more about him, about his condition. It was really tough in the first quite a few years. But, once we really got more involved with groups of people that were like people like, I would say people like us, but it's being involved because it is different. You all think you're by yourself, you're alone, you're the only one that's dealing with it, but in reality, you're not. You're not alone. That's, I think, the most important thing is to get involved with groups of other parents that deal with the same thing you do every day.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. The fact that you stepped in as a stepfather, puts a little bit different spin on things, right? You came in to the situation with your eyes open. Most of the dads, at least the ones that I've met, who are raising a child, or in some cases children with autism or special needs, just more broadly, that was the hand that they were dealt, right? Not the one that they picked up.
Right.
There's different adjustments that we all need to make, when you face adversity. And I really admire you taking on the responsibility of not only becoming a stepdad, but including a child with special needs. So it's remarkable. What a great role model you are. So I'm wondering, was there any meaningful advice that you've received either early on or along the way that seems to have made a difference or resonated with you?
Not a ton. I mean, we didn't really get involved with, I would say, dad's groups or groups like that till within the last 3 or 4 years. So when it was younger, or when Aaron was younger, it was more me and Melissa. It was more encouragement from Melissa, and always be positive. I mean, that's the only way you can be, because Aaron's a very literal person. So you got to be careful what you tell him, because black and white. That's what it is. There ain't you can't say this and mean something else, because he's gonna take it the first way. So it's it was one of those things. Be mindful of what you say, and I kind of learned that you don't really learn it until sometimes you do it. So, it's one of those things you have to be very cognitive of what you say.
Yeah, well, thanks for emphasizing the point that Aaron takes things literally, right? So you want to make sure that you're making yourself as plain spoken and clear as possible, so there's less room for misinterpretation. That's what I heard you say. So not to focus on the negative, but what have been some of the biggest challenges that you and Melissa have faced?
I think the challenge for me is a lot of times I didn't know what to do. I mean, of not having kids of my own, of not sitting there going, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I had crossed my mind many times that I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. I can't do it. And, you pray about it, but as kind of what I was talking about earlier, is quitting was not an option. It's never been an option. The kids need love. I'll look back and what I didn't have from when I was a kid, because you all say you want to learn, you don't want to do what your mom or dad did. And it's true. I wanted to do better than what I had. And, that kind of always drives me back to make sure that they know I love them, bottom line, no matter what.
Yeah, that's really important. Thanks for sharing. And one of the thoughts that comes to mind, Mike, is that we all learn from other role models. And in the perfect world, you would emulate the good role models and then live vicariously through the bad role models so you don't repeat some of the same mistakes, right, that were made, like when you were growing up, when I was growing up. I'm sort of curious to know, as a stepfather, has there been any interference from the biological father or fathers in the situation or not?
No, well, actually, Aaron and Ashland's, they have this, their father passed away when, let's see, Ashland was 7, and I think Aaron he was 6 or 5. But we had him, when we were living in Dallas, we made sure we drove down to Houston once a month. So the kids had the opportunity to see their father. To me, that was very important. Regardless that I wasn't their real father, but I wanted to make sure that they had access to make sure that they knew who their real father was. And that was important to me and Melissa. So we would drive down every month for them to come down and see their dad. And I'm glad we did, because, I mean, he passed away when he wasn't even 50 yet.
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. That sounds like a challenging situation in and of itself, right? To have somebody, a parent die at relatively young age. And it's good that you made the effort to include him or make sure that, like you said, the kids knew who their dad was, that they might have more of a firsthand memory as opposed to just, a recollection from relatives and pictures and something like that. So I'm sort of curious to know what impact has Aaron's situation had on his older siblings or the rest of your family for that matter?
Well, I mean, it depends on, it's, Ashland's had it harder, I think, because I think, Gracie, Haley's daughter, Haley and Seth's daughter, does the siblings, because and I agree with that. I think the siblings have as tough a hard time with a child that has a disability, because a lot of times they're overlooked. And it's very important that they're involved. And I'm happy that a lot of the ones groups we've got involved with have always included the sibling. And, a lot of times when you go see, when we go to any of our group things, you have the child there that has a disability, and then you have their siblings, and it's I wouldn't say funny, but it's it kind of all goes in the same thing, where they go through exactly the same issues that Ashland does. I mean, Ashland and Gracie are good friends, so they hang out a lot. But it's one of those things that they have to be involved. There was times where she definitely felt overlooked, that we spent a lot more time with Aaron, but there was times where we had to. And We explained it. I mean, you have to, and Melissa talked to her, and once we got involved with the siblings, and I think that kind of helped as well.
Well, thanks for sharing. So I'm thinking about supporting organizations now, and I'm wondering what organizations have you relied on as a family or for Aaron's benefit for that matter?
One of the main ones we've really enjoyed is, and actually we're going this next weekend, is blus-skies-over-autism. We call it BSOA for short. It's ran by a gentleman, Alan Fowler, and his son is nonverbal on the spectrum. So we enjoy his group's not as, I mean, we actually went on a cruise with their group, raised some money into going on a cruise, and it was probably one of the most life-changing events we've ever done. It was really amazing. We went, I think it's probably 2 years ago, and it was with 35 other families. There's another nonprofit that runs, it's autism-on-the-sea, and what they are is they're individuals that are in the field that deal with kids' autism or that part. I guess they come there to donate their time. They volunteer. And what they did is they set up events all over the ship for the kids to go do, to make sure they were able to do each specific event that was on the ship. We had times segregated for that. But I think the biggest thing I got back from that is when we were in Honduras, Roatan, and we had the autism school from Honduras came onto the ship. Kids, a mother or father, each family picked out a child, and we gave them gifts. Then they got to tour the ship and eat a meal on the ship before they got off the ship. But to me, that was the best part of the whole trip, by far.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a very unique experience to be able to go cruising and not have to be so self-conscious about, oh, what's my son or daughter going to do, my autistic son or daughter going to do, if all the families have a child with autism, right? So you're all in this together, if you will. And it sort of, takes some of the pressure off so you can relax and enjoy yourself. What a brilliant idea, this Autism on the Seas and the organization Blue Skies Over Autism. And I'm wondering what other programs the Blue Skies organization has.
Well, we have next weekend, we're doing down on Galveston Island, we are renting golf carts. And each family is renting a golf cart, and we do a golf cart parade down the Strand. This will be the second time we've done this one. The kids love it. I mean, the autistic kids love getting on that thing. And one of our friends, his name is Lane, and he's excited about it. I mean, he's ready to go. He was ready to go this last weekend. And it's I think the best part of it, doing things with them, and we have holiday meals as well. We haven't had it in the last year because of COVID, but we usually have a summer picnic, Halloween, Christmas, and where we all get together. Alan rents a location, and then we have meals, and but it's seeing these kids smile. I mean, that's what it's all about.
And I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the United Superstars organization, and I'm wondering what connection or impact that organization's had on your family as well.
Well, I mean, the Night of Superstars thing was, I didn't know what to expect really. When Aaron was nominated downtown Houston here, we went down there. Aaron's the best thing is he got to dress up in a tuxedo. I mean, he loved that thing. But, seeing where these kids that are on or have disabilities that overcome, I wouldn't say overcome their disability, but they push forward, they persevere. They don't let their disability have the best of them. I guess that's the best way to put it, is it doesn't slow them down. We had Aaron on stage, but he got up that night, and there were probably 700-800 people there and spoke. Yeah, I can't say I wouldn't had tears rolling down my cheeks watching Aaron speak in front of all those people. It was quite amazing.
Yeah, well, the work that Greg Johnson and the Night of Superstars organization does to honor youth, young adults, is pretty remarkable. And red carpet, black tie, first class events all the way around. I'm just thrilled to hear that your group or your family has been a part of that, and that you feel the same. So I'm thinking about advice now, and I'm wondering, beyond the scope of the conversation we've already had, what advice can you offer a dad who might be listening, or a stepdad for that matter, or a man who is dating a woman who might have a child with special needs?
Well, I mean, the advice I would say is kind of twofold. First, I would definitely try to get involved in groups. I mean, even starting in church, because getting kids involved in church as well is very important, because most churches have special needs ministries that can help as well. I think that's important. But the main thing is to love the kids. Unconditional love. Because most kids that are on the spectrum, regardless of where they are on the spectrum, they all want to be loved, they all want to be cherished, and they all want to have fun with their friends. As a dad or stepdad, one of the main things is don't think you're alone. You're not alone. You always have people there that will support you, no matter what.
Well, thanks for emphasizing the importance that a group plays, and that you're not alone. And the way I think about that, Mike, is you're only alone if you choose to be alone, right? With the resources that are available today. And you'll benefit, your child will benefit, your family will benefit by you engaging with other dads and experiencing this in a community, as opposed to doing what most men do as Neanderthals. Like, I'm guilty of this too. I'm going to figure it out on my own, right?
Right.
That's challenging enough before GPS came along, right? To get from point A to point B in your vehicle. And you apply that to parenting, or parenting a child with special needs, you're going to be in some deep water, right? If you think you're going to be figuring that on your own. So words of wisdom on your part. So I'm sort of curious to know, why is it that you've agreed to be a mentor father as part of the Special Fathers Network?
Well, I think it's important. I think it's a valuable tool to have people that you can talk to and ask questions, because most people that I've met that have special needs, they've been through a situation that they've been through quite a few more situations than you can ever imagine. Having a resource, someone there that's been through it or going through it, is better than trying to sit there trying to figure out what you're going to do and not know anything. That's why I think it's important to make sure you have the lifeline. If you think you're going to do it on your own, you're mistaken. It takes many people to make it out.
Yep, well spoken. So let's give a special shout out to our mutual friend, Greg Johnson of Night of Superstars, for helping connect us. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Just one quick thing, I'll kind of try this, is just a reminder, is whatever you've been through in life, whatever you go through, a lot of people have many problems, issues, families that, most kids, it's not that they don't understand, but they understand when you deal with problems. And I think it's important to make sure that you're portraying, especially with kids on the spectrum. Aaron knows when there's problems. And I mean, he's older now where he has an understanding of what I've gone through in my life. Because I think it's important that he learns that, hey, I'm not perfect. What I've been through is not perfect. No one's perfect. That's why we need each other, and it's a team. It's a team. Our family is the team. And just remember that Yeah, I mean, I just can't say it enough. You're not alone. That's the main thing.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. If somebody wants to learn more about Blue Skies Over Autism, Night of Superstars, or contact you, what's the best way to do so?
I'll give you my cell number. It's 469-733-7364. Text me, call me.
That's very generous of you. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes along with information on Blue Skies Over Autism as well as Night of Superstars. Mike, thank you for taking the time and many insights. As a reminder, Mike is just one of the dads who's part of the Special Fathers Network, a mentoring program for fathers raising a child with special needs. If you'd like to be a mentor father or are seeking advice from a mentor father with a similar situation to your own, please go to 21stcenturydads.org. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. As you probably know, the 21st Century Dads Foundation is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization, which means we need your help to keep our content free to all concerned. Would you please consider making a tax-deductible contribution? I would really appreciate your support. Mike, thanks again.
All right, thank you. Take care.
And thank you for listening to the Dad to Dad podcast, presented by the Special Fathers Network. The Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. Through our personalized matching process, new fathers with special needs children connect with mentor fathers in a similar situation. It's a great way for fathers to support fathers. Go to 21stcenturydads.org.
And if you're a dad looking for help or would like to offer help, we would be honored to have you join our closed Facebook group. Please go to facebook.com/groups and search Dad to Dad. Also, please be sure to register for the Special Fathers Network bi-weekly Zoom calls held on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. Lastly, we're always looking to share interesting stories. If you'd like to share your story or know of a compelling story, please send an email to david@21stcenturydads.org.
The Dad to Dad podcast was produced by Couch Audio for the Special Fathers Network. Thanks again to Horizon Therapeutics, who believe that science and compassion must work together to transform lives. That's why they work tirelessly to research, develop, and bring forward medicines for people living with rare and rheumatic diseases. Discover more about Horizon Therapeutics at horizontherapeutics.com.